So if you're questioning TB11, I dare you to play 10 games without it. Play 10 games without TB11, and then, if you missed it, put TB11 back in your deck. Ladder is such low stakes that you can do things like that. Welcome, Master Duelists, to the Master Duel Dojo. There are some who call me Tim. Subscribe for further training. The path of 4,000 subs leads the dojo to enlightenment and monetization. You should play Maliss. What is Maliss? Maliss is a dark Cybers archetype that is based on Alice in Wonderland. It's a very fun theme, and they all mostly have the same effect that when they are banished, you can pay some life points and resummon them. And each of them has a different effect that then gets you to another card. And they do the Cybers Link Climb thing. And usually, right now, and on Appaloosa plus Firewall Dragon, they draw several cards during their combo, and they set up a lot of interaction on the opponent's turn. It's a very fun deck to play. I think it's very rewarding. It is also easy to play as so far as combo decks go, because it is honestly quite repetitive, and some people think that that's boring, but I think it is a good step into the competitive game and higher ranks. So here in front of me, I have what I consider to be mandatory in the Maliss deck, and you need a reason to cut down on these cards. So 3 Dormouse, 3 Rabbit, at least 2 Hare, and Chessy Cat. You do need all of these. They are all, okay, Rabbit and Mouse and Hare are all Ultra. Gold Sark you might not have on your account, which is a bummer, but is very good as a starter and extender. Malice and Underground is another ultra rare, and you don't need the 3rd copy, but I advise that if you're building Malice, you have the 3rd copy on your account, so then when it is correct to have it in your deck, you have access to it. Followed by Crossout, Ash, Mexi, we've seen these. Malice in the Mirror, and you need at least these 2 traps. So 6 isn't completely necessary, but is the bulk of your plays on both players' turns right now, with the way the deck functions. And then in the extra deck, what's made it? So there's 3 Link monsters, Hearts Cryptor, and then Red and White Queens. Cryptor is Ultra. Link Decoder, if you haven't played a Cybers deck before, you probably don't have it, but it is an Ultra, and it does change how the deck plays. And if Decoder gets banned, like it did in TCG, the deck changes considerably. And then Firewall, Apollo, Access Code are 3 Ultras that you should probably have. I didn't have a Firewall Dragon before playing Maliss, so I had to craft this. But Apollo and Access should definitely be on your account, and until they get banned, which Access probably won't, Apollo is rumored on the chopping block, that you will play these again if they are legal. They are not always the play, but they are so frequently the play that it's no harm to have them on your account. Firewall Dragon is a bit more niche when you can make it, because it has to basically go in a link deck, because you need to co-link it to get it the best effect. But it's, so like, Apollo, if you can make Apollo, she's just good. If you can make Access Code using another link, he's just good. Firewall Dragon is more niche in that he needs to be co-linked to be good. And we'll read the cards. There's a couple different ways to build Maliss, and here I have some other options in your deck. So I have a bunch of diversity of hand traps here that you can play. I have more copies of Chessy and March Hare if you're not maxed out on those already. I've got Bistials. Bistials work as extender and interruption. Gold Sark, if you don't have it, you need to consider it. Allure of Darkness is a draw 2, but it's conditional on having a dark. So you need to have really, like, the minimum amount of darks I would consider before I play Allure of Darkness is 13. And that's just the way the math works, of having at least 1 dark to banish. And at that 13-14 range, you're likely to only have 1 dark that you banish. So it's possible you Allure of Darkness, draw into Magnemite, and then you have to banish Magnemite. With low dark rates, Allure is quite likely to miss, and then you have to discard your hand. And I've seen that a lot because people It's very, very good. So if you go Lure of Darkness, banish Dormouse, Dormouse reloads, and then you can activate Dormouse and combo from there. That is amazing. That feels awesome. But if you miss, you're doing nothing. So the allure is literally very alluring. It is literally tempting. It is literally greedy. And I love its theme for that. That it is literally tempting you here. And it is punishing people. Signet mining is diverse and can go get different things. It's not necessarily needed right now in like pure builds, but if you're playing different Cybers monsters, you can play this. The third underground, if you're not playing it, called by Crossout, Imperm, and Impulse, I think are nearly mandatory, and you need to heavily consider if you don't have them in your deck already. Impulse is it does conflict with some sub engines, which I'll come back to, but Impulse I think is so good right now, and it stops every Maliss combo, like by itself. They need an extender to play through it. It doesn't shut off the whole turn. And then in the extra deck, I have some other options. I have Link Spider here because I need to talk about it. People ask, why does Link Spider exist? Link Spider does not need to be in most versions of the deck. The only version I agree with still is Sky Striker, where you summon the token and you want to convert the token, your own token on purpose, into Cybers. Otherwise, I don't think Link Spider belongs, because the way you make it is off of a Nibiru token, and if you can continue playing through the Nibiru token, you can summon enough monsters to link into your Link 3 anyways, and the Maliss Link 3s don't require non-tokens. So you can use the token for a Maliss Link and then continue playing. You don't need to convert it into Splash Mage. Code of Soul is one of the options that you would get with Signet mining. I don't like Code of Soul by itself. You need a way to search it, and I don't like Signet mining because you also can't search Signet mining. There's a build that gets around this that I'll talk about Signet mining, but I don't think Signet mining belongs in most versions. These three are just terahertz options. I see these 11 slots in the extra deck as mandatory for Maliss, so that really means, unless you're cutting one of these for a specific reason, that you only have 4 extra deck slots to fit in other things. And the flex slot would be Firewall Dragon if you're going to end on something else other than Firewall Dragon. And I have a list I'm going to show you that cuts Apollo instead of Firewall for the same reason, that it's decided it's never going to end on Apollo. So in those extra slots, you can put Dark, you can put Cerberus, you can put Phoenix. These interact in various ways. IP Masquerena is an option. I don't think it's that great. I don't think it's great in Mexi. I don't think it's great in Defulos. I think you have better options playing into both. And I have not seen a situation where I think IP Masquerena is the best option, because you so frequently turn your monsters immediately into Link monsters, so you can't even make IP. Almirage, unlike Link Spider, is valuable to convert one of your normal summons into a Cybers to then link into Splash Mage. That does come up and is relevant, because then you otherwise wouldn't be able to play. So, for example, if you go Gold Sark, and you go into Dormouse, and they imperm Dormouse, Dormouse then isn't doing anything. You can link it into Link Decoder or Lingaribo, but that by itself doesn't do anything. So you normal summon a Hand Trap, and you can't make Splash Mage. And if you've already reloaded your Dormouse, Lizard or SP isn't going to do it. And since it was imperm, let's say, like Dark is not going to steal a monster out of their grave. So it has to be Almirage into Splash Mage, reborn your Maliss, make Ransom. Terahertz is kind of a replacement for the Firewall. So you can go something like Apollo plus Terahertz instead of Firewall. And that is a legal play you can make. I don't like Terahertz because any hand that can make Terahertz can make Firewall, and you free up 4 extra deck slots. Because you kind of need to play Transcode Talker if you're playing Terahertz. You don't need to, but there's many, many hands where you want the Transcode Talker to turn 1 Cybers into your Link 5. You do technically need to. You summon 2 monsters, 2 Cybers monsters. Cybers monsters turn into Splash Mage. Splash Mage reborns any Cybers monster. Doesn't matter what it is. That turns into Link Decoder. Link Decoder plus Splash Mage turn into Transcode Talker. Link Decoder reborns itself. Transcode Talker reborns Splash Mage. And then Transcode Decoder Splash Mage is Terahertz together. That's the play. And this works under Lancia. And it works through different types of disruption where you can't play with the Maliss cards. And then your options to send are Desave Worm, Packbit, and Aggregator. And they do various things. Desave negates a spell trap while you have a Link 4 or higher Cybers, so either Firewall, basically. Packbit discards a card to push something back to the back row, and Aggregator negates a face-up card. Many builds are only playing Desave, and they're playing Code of Soul as a second target, because Terahertz is a quick effect that will send on both players' turns. So let me show you the other engines and why you might play them. Okay, so some of the other engines you can play in Maliss help you play through Artifact Lancia. Artifact Lancia is a problem for Maliss, but I think that Maliss is still good enough that you don't care. You just play Maliss regardless. And the Lancia problem is solved in a couple different ways. So Maliss has to fight through Maxi and Lancia, two different hand traps your opponent could have that basically end your turn. And so you need to have a plan for both of them. And playing Maliss, you're playing both minigames. And many people have expressed that they hate playing Maliss for this reason. And Maliss is very difficult to stop without specific non-engine. So if the non-engine you draw doesn't stop Maliss, they're going to set up a big board, and you're probably going to lose. So first here, I have Speedroid Terrortop plus Takatomborg. So this engine is 3 Terrortop, Takatomborg, Cherubini, and then optionally, Code of Soul. It is usually played. And then either of the rank 3 XCs. You don't have to play those. Those are completely optional on top of the optional Terrortops. Terrortop does conflict with Impulse. So if you use Impulse, you can't then search Takatomborg with Terrortop. But it is still a free special summon. It does make you slightly more vulnerable to Nib, and that is a counterpoint against it, and Nibiru is getting more popular, and I advise you to play multiple Nibiru right now. Things might change in the future, but right now, multiple Nibiru. And so what you do with them is you make Cherubini, send a Maliss to the graveyard, normal summon any other card, link into Lizard, and then you have access to your Maliss. Or if you have a Maliss, you can just normal summon your Maliss, link it with Cherubini into Ransom, and then you're off to the races. Code of Soul is just a link option. So I haven't mentioned yet. Code of Soul, what it does is it allows you to make Cryptor, usually, on your opponent's turn. You can make either Firewall Dragon if you have the materials here. So next up is MathMech. MathMech engine, I don't personally like. It does beat Lancia because it allows you to make Terahertz, but so do many, many other things. You can get to Terahertz without it, and playing MathMech kind of forces you to play Terahertz, because if that is your anti-Lancia plan, circular into Terahertz, you should be making Terahertz anyways. It's also a big investment, so you need however many copies of circular you're going to play. You usually need Diameter, and then you need at least Alimbertion to complete the combo. And then at that point, you may as well add Superfac and Laplation, and then you're eating into a lot of main deck and extra deck space. And it is not good into Fulos. I think regular Maliss is quite good into Fulos. Fiendsmith has a little bit of anti-synergy with Maliss, because if you start Fiendsmith, you have to go all the way, however far you get with your Fiendsmith stuff, before you realize, or before you know if your opponent has Lancia or something like it, unless they just shotgun it straight away. So the Maliss monsters, if you reload them, they lock you into link summons only from the extra deck. So if you go ahead and you summon Engraver, you link Requiem, you summon Sequence, and you've reloaded a Maliss, you can't activate Sequence because you can't fusion summon. So you have to do that first. So all of those plays go first. You run the Fiendsmiths into Maxi, and then you make your Maliss plays. Yes, so the best thing you could be doing is make an Apollo with the Fiendsmiths before you start playing up Maliss, and I don't like that. It just doesn't feel good, because you have to naturally draw them and then play them first. The upside of Fiendsmith that I see is Fiendsmith going second. Yeah, Scolopendra says there's the issue about how many slots Fiendsmith takes in the extra deck, and that is basically your all of the flex slots, because you can skip Desiree and play just Lacrima, but it's at least Lacrima, Sequence, Requiem, and that's if you're not playing Moon. If you just want to hard draw the Fiendsmith stuff and then use it before you Malice to make like Apollo, that's 3 slots without any fluff. That's no Caesar, no Desiree, no Moon, and there's other things that Fiendsmiths can do. Millennium. Night Assassin has asked, why Millennium? Millennium costs a lot of life points. So with Malice, you can get to Malice plus Millennium, you can get to a scary, scary low life total. But I would advise you to look in the description for my tournament where Aban gets first place in my tournament with Millennium Malice. The life point payment doesn't actually matter. It feels very, very heavy, and it can matter in rare occasions, but it doesn't actually make a real difference, because if you have life points left, you haven't lost the game, and your opponent has to get through your whole board before they can kill you. And you are not going to the low enough point where single Lacrima is going to kill you, because you have interaction to stop their sequence and other things from getting to Lacrima. +6 does gain life points. So most lines with 6, you're gaining 23 on both players' turns. So you're gaining back all of the Millennium life points, and then you're basically only dealing with the Malice life points that you have to pay. It does add up. So turn 3 is where the life point payment starts to matter, because you've paid 4,000 plus around 3,000 for Malice. There are combos that leave you at exactly like 1,000 life points. But the Millennium Engine is very powerful before and after Lancia. You can start with Millennium. You can threaten Photon Lord, which will negate things. But I find most of the time Zombie Vampire is more than enough, because it eats hand traps. There's very few situations where your opponent doesn't stop Zombie Vampire if they can, because Zombie Vampire gets another thing, and then you're either playing your main engine or theirs. You can summon something like Lancia or Chaos Hunter. I've seen Zombie Vampire steal Chaos Hunters, which is very funny. Doom Dragon is also just an insane card. If you haven't read Doom Dragon, you need to. Pause the video, read Snake Eyes Doom Dragon. It's an insane card. It's just free. You just get to play it for free if you play Millennium. Allures, I've talked about already. I've touched on them, that you need to be playing enough darks for this, and that is usually high bestial count. Okay, Sky Striker. Sky Striker is the last engine I'm going to talk about right now. It is usually just 3 engage, 1 Hornet Drone, 1 Widow Anchor, and they do play stuff like Triple Allure. And I'll show you a Sky Striker build, and the only difference in the extra deck is single Kagari. So it is a compact extra deck, and it gets you extra material that you can do whatever you want with from there. So it is just link material that's good going first and second, and sometimes engage draws you cards. Like, it's just simple extra link material. That's what it's doing here. Okay, let's look at some different lists. This is just a very, very stock Malice list with no real frills or anything special. So there's a trend of Lancia going in and out of decks right now, because Malice is only like 30 to 50% of the meta share. And so Lancia is only good against Malice. That's not true. It has applications in other matchups, but is highly variable of how good it is. Similar to cards like Ghost Bell or Ghost Ogre, that they are not high impact in every matchup. So people are shaving on Lancias and cutting it entirely in favor of other matchup strength. To the point where I now see Dimension Shifter going into Malice again, because the Malice mirrors are getting less frequent. People are playing other decks again. So this is just a no frills Malice build. It has 3 Fulos. I would like to see these become Imperm. I think Imperm is a lot better, but Fulos is a card. There's 3 Nibiru. I think that this is a bit much. I would not like to play 3 Nibirus, but you can put the 3 Nibirus in your deck, and it is high impact. It is very good. It does technically conflict with Impulse, but you have to Nibiru first before you Impulse, and you usually want to Impulse early in the turn. That's why I don't like 3 Nibiru, because it increases the chances of these actually conflicting. This second mirror here could be something else, but it is a good card to draw, and it functions like Imperm going second, but it also gets you rolling. So you could perhaps cut Fulos, Nib, second mirror for 3 Imperm, and then change out the other 2 Fulos for another hand trap of your choice. I'm personally a big fan of Bell, but this deck is a solid deck and not embarrassing. I'm a huge fan of this precise list right here. It's another heavy hand trap build, and it plays Bell, Lancia, third Bestial, Imperms over the other stuff, and it has a single Talents. So it is down to 1 Chessy Cat, and you could have the Talents be a second Chessy Cat, because it is your like anti-Maxi, anti-Fua plan to just Chessy Cat draw 2. So if they Maxi or Fulos you in the main phase, or Lancia you can Talents to either look at their hand or draw more cards to draw into more entering. So the final thing about this specific list is that the plan under Lancia and Maxi are both the same. If your opponent hits you with either of those, you just stop, because it has 21 hand traps, if I've counted right. It has shaved on Underground, so you're less likely to draw multiples of that and be dead into Lancia or Maxi. And then you can just pass with a grip full of hand traps. And if your game plan succeeds and you are able to combo, and you draw off Chessy, off Binder twice, you're drawing into hand traps. So Imperm is the only one that can't be activated if you draw it on your opponent's turn. I like that. So Maliss is a bunch of different ways to arrive at the same point. This is a sample Terror Top list where you make Cherubini to either get started or to play through things. And an upside of Cherubini is that you can send a level 3 Ash Blossom Code of Soul if you don't need access to your Maliss, which is really great. And then you are able to Firewall, bounce back your level 3. And there's a really cool play that's in the spreadsheet, link in the description, that you can summon Firewall, Firewall bounce itself, link summon Firewall again. So Firewall will bounce itself and a hand trap and maybe a third thing, and then you summon Firewall again, because Firewall is once while it's face up on the field. So you use it once on your turn, bounce itself, summon Firewall again. It's very cool. So this deck doesn't have called buys. It does have Lancias. If you're not seeing a lot of Maliss, you can cut the Lancias. If you are seeing a lot of Maliss, play the Lancias. And how many Lancias to play in tournaments, I'm not sure. I don't play enough in tournaments to know, but on ladder, you can change your deck every game. So just go based on your like gut feeling here if you're playing against a lot of Maliss. And it will always feel like you've made the wrong choice, though. If you look at all of the cards in the game, if we microscope that to even just all of the hand traps in the game, you've decided I need a hand trap in this slot to interact with my opponent when I go second on their first turn in this deck slot. That limits our choices to hand traps. It could be a board breaker, so it's like board breaker, hand trap. And if we microscope it to only hand traps, and you include all the hand traps, the average number of any given hand trap is going to be 0. Most hand traps you are playing 0 copies of. So if you just pick a random card, you're going to be playing 0 copies of it. So something like Ghost Ogre has applications. Something like Shifter has applications, but it doesn't mean it is the best tool for the job. Same with Droll, Deity Crow, many other hand traps. Many people in pure lists do still play Terahertz, and so here's the sample of what that would look like. This list has Terahertz, it has D-Save Worm Descend on the first turn, and then Code of Soul on the second turn. Because Terahertz, you summon it on your turn, you then send something on your turn, and send something on your opponent's turn. So Drexier played in my tournament, he got, I think it was second place, and he played Terahertz in a otherwise pure list with a set of Lancias here. Cerberus and Dark are his other 2 flex cards that he's opted for. Cerberus outs things like Chaos Hunter and then Dark can extend and kind of does a fake job of being transcode. The problem with Terahertz is that if you can make Terahertz, you can make Firewall Dragon. And so why not just summon Firewall Dragon, leave the extra material on board, turn it into something like Lingaribo, and save this extra deck space. This is Aban's first placed Maliss list from my tournament. He's got a heavy 3 sets of talents. He's only playing 3 Millennium Monsters, but he does have Zombie Vampire and Doom Dragon, and there's a set of Fools here as well. He's shaved down on Imperms, and he's not playing any Impulses. And there's nothing, no other frills or extra special stuff. Again, he has Cerberus Dark as his other 2 flex slots in addition to Doomed and Zombie Vampire. And then this list is from Beto in the Malice Discord and Master Duel Meta. This is the Skystriker list he's been playing on ladder. I can't quite attest to this list because I have not played it, but this is what he's been playing. You do still pick going first, but all of your cards are still good going second. He has a set of Nibiru and Drone Lockbird. I don't know if I agree with Drone Lockbird right now, because Malice is quite good at playing through it, but it is a card you can play. One of the upsides of Skystriker is that you still get to play Impulse, and it is a similar size engine to most of the other decks. It is 3 Engage, Hornet Drones, Widow Anchor, and both are good going first and second. They're extra combo and interaction with Widow Anchor. He has no allures in this list because his dark count is only 10. If I were to advise you to just pick a list blindly, it would be this list, and then keep your eye on the Malice mirror match, how much you're seeing, and then cut Lancias for something else. It can be Effect Veiler, it can be anything you like here, and it is better if it is a dark, fire, or water monster that works through Impulse. So something like a Shifter, replacing a Lancia because you're no longer seeing Malice mirror matches, and then 2 other cards. And those 2 cards can be anything that I've showed you up to this point. So if you want to, you could cut the Lancias for something like a Shifter and a pair of Called by the Grave, or a second Chessy Cat, or something like that. This list doesn't have Called by the Grave because it isn't a hand trap going second. And going first, your plan is to pass into Lancia Maxi anyways. So you can play Called by, but there are times when you don't need to put Called by the Grave in your deck. There's times when you don't need to put Ash Blossom in your deck. Most of the time they go in your deck, and they are correct, but there are times that you should not play them, and if you always play them like they're sacred, you will miss the moment when it is not correct to play them.